Thank you, everyone. As you know, Bev always gives me a large part to play. So this is my role, is to introduce Clare. And Clare doesn't want a lot said. So she is the Vice Chairman, Center for Security Policy, Research and Analysis Department. And more importantly, she's a good friend to all of us, Clare Lopez.
Hello, Cleveland. It's great to see you all out here this afternoon. And I'm happy to be home, back home again in my hometown. This is my hometown, grew up here, went to school here, and it's always nice to come back. Thanks for being here today to talk about this horrendous, awful deal that our leadership is trying to arrange with the Islamic Republic of Iran. So I've got one question about this deal that our leaders are trying to conclude. What do we get out of it? We know what we've gotten for 36 years from the Islamic Republic of Iran, and that's war from the regime of the mullahs. Terror attacks, hostages, kidnapping, assassinations, torture and murder of our people. The Islamic Republic of Iran has been at war with us for some 36 years. We have never, ever responded in kind. What has gone on over those 36 years begins with the revolution in 1979, goes to the Beirut Marine Corps barracks bombings and embassy bombings in 1983 by Hezbollah, an Iran terror proxy, the kidnapping, torture, murder of our CIA Chief of Station, Bill Buckley, in Beirut, Colonel Richard Higgins, Marine Corps, on up to the early 1990s terror operational alliance between Iran and Al-Qaeda that persists to this day, and that over the years brought us the attacks at Khobar Towers, the 1998 East Africa Embassy bombings, the attack on the USS Cole in Yemen in the year 2000, and yes, the attacks of 9/11, and up to and including the attacks that killed and maimed so many of our troops in Iraq in the 2000s at the hands of the explosive devices that Iran provided to its Iraqi Shiite terror militias, the ones that we're now working with. What does Iran get out of this deal? Well, let's see. They get to keep their entire nuclear infrastructure. They get to keep all their centrifuges. They get to keep doing R&D on more centrifuges, better, faster models of centrifuges. They get to keep all of their enriched uranium stockpile. They're supposed to dilute it down a bit, but they get to keep it all. By the way, that stockpile now is enough at this moment, if processed on further, to make about 9 nuclear bombs. They get to keep all that. They get to keep the inspectors away from any place that they say they cannot go into. They declare it off limits, a military site, a secret site. The inspectors don't get to go there, and none of the inspectors will be American in any case. They get to keep sites like Parchin. Parchin, we learned about from one of these secret side deals. We know there are 2 secret side deals now. No idea how many more there might be because our administration's not telling us. President Obama and Secretary of State John Kerry don't want us to know anything about the side deals, but some of that is leaked out. So Parchin is one of these sites where the IAEA, that's the International Atomic Energy Agency, believes that Iran was conducting explosives tests on their nuclear warheads years ago. Let that sink in. Iran was already conducting testing on warheads, nuclear warheads, years ago at this site. Now we learn from one of the secret side deals that the IAEA is not going to be allowed into that place, Parchin, to look at it, inspect it for themselves, but rather the Iranians are going to inspect it themselves. And they're going to provide samples to the IAEA themselves. It's going to be filmed. I mean, they're going to videotape it, so that should be okay. They get to keep lying about what they call possible military dimensions, or PMDs for short. That means the past militarization of Iran's nuclear weapons program. They don't have to come clean about any of that. Now, apparently, they have some sort of side deal with the IAEA about that, but we don't know anything about it. The American people aren't going to know anything about it. They get to keep Arak. Arak, A-R-A-K, is a heavy water plutonium-producing facility where the product of the facility is plutonium. Plutonium is another way to make a bomb. They get to keep that too. They were supposed to destroy it, but now not so much. They get to keep Arak. They get to keep their entire intercontinental ballistic missile system. Notice the first word of that acronym, ICBMs, is intercontinental. Those missiles are not for Israel. Iran has other missiles for Israel, shorter range ones, medium range ones. The intercontinental ballistic missiles, they're for us. That's what they're developing those for. Those weren't even up for discussion, not even on the table. They get to keep 4 American citizen hostages. Yes, right now, the mullah's regime of the Islamic Republic of Iran is holding 4 American citizens hostage. One of them is the Christian pastor, Saeed Abedini. He's held because he's Christian. There is the former Marine, Amir Hekmati. There is the bureau chief for the Washington Post in Tehran, Jason Rezaian, who just went through a mock farce of a trial a few days ago, this past week. And then there is the former FBI agent, Robert Levinson. Why are we even talking with a regime that is holding 4 American citizens hostage? We should not be speaking one word with this regime until those 4 Americans are home, safe, and sound. So what else does Iran get? They're going to get, reportedly, somewhere in the range of $100 to $150 billion of their own funds that are currently frozen in foreign banks, unfrozen, released to them, along with sanctions relief, which will add up to quite a lot of money. And the Iranian regime's senior leadership figures have already said that they're going to use this money not for the Iranian people who've been suffering under the sanctions regime for these many long years, whose economy was destroyed by these sanctions. No, the leadership is saying that they will be spending this money on their regional terror proxies, like Hezbollah, which, by the way, has a cell network all over the Western Hemisphere, including right here in the United States of America. They'll get a big chunk, and we know about that because their foreign minister, Javad Zarif, made sure he had a very nice photo op when he went to Beirut about a week ago to talk with the Hezbollah Secretary General, Hassan Nasrallah. And they released that photo very blatantly into the media just to show us exactly where that money is going to go, what relationships really matter to this regime. We've also learned in recent days that the Iranians have already begun stirring up trouble in Bahrain. That is a small country in the Persian Gulf that has a majority Shiite population but a minority Sunni leadership. And the Iranians have been riling up the population to oppose that regime there. We also found out recently that the Iranians provided a weapons cache and were directing a plot in Kuwait, another Persian Gulf country, to mount a terrorist attack there. This is while the deal is still not even finalized. We're in the intermediate period. The deal was concluded in Vienna after several years of secret negotiations. And I mean secret. The American people didn't know, Israel didn't know. You know where Israel found out about these secret negotiations? They found out from Saudi Arabia. Odd bedfellows that our administration is forming. So the secret deal has been in the works and under negotiation for several years, going back to 2011. And only now they've reached a point where it is in consideration, and the Iranians can't even wait to show us where they're going to spend their money on their terror proxies. They also sent Quds Force Commander Qasem Soleimani up to Moscow to finalize the purchase for Iran of an air defense missile system called the S-300. Once that thing gets delivered and installed and trained up, it will be very much more difficult for anyone to attack Iran's nuclear weapons facilities. Let's see, what else do they get? They get the P5+1 help. P5 means 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council, plus 1 is Germany. Our help, in other words, to help defend their nuclear sites against attack. Yes, that's in the deal. We're going to help them defend their nuclear sites against attack. We're also on the hook in this agreement to help them develop their nuclear technology, including technology with nuclear explosives applications. That's in the deal. Can you believe this? This is what our leadership wants us to sign off on. Of course, they didn't really want us to know all this, but thanks for you being here so that you now do know. How'd this all happen? How'd we get here? Well, here's part of it. Secretary of State John Kerry was a U.S. Senator from the state of Massachusetts before he became Secretary of State, and he was the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee about a decade ago when George Soros held a dinner party at his penthouse Manhattan apartment in New York City and invited Senator John Kerry, and he invited the then Iranian ambassador to the United Nations, Javad Zarif, who is currently their foreign minister. And so the two met. John Kerry and Javad Zarif were put together more than a decade ago for the Iranians to begin working on him. And then we've got our energy secretary, Ernest Moniz, who went to MIT in Boston, Massachusetts. And this is way back in the 1970s, where he met there at MIT the current head of the Iranian Atomic Energy Organization. His name is Ali Akbar Salehi. And they've been friends ever since then, too. You see how long the Iranians have been working on this? This game was laid out a long time ago. The secret negotiations were the culmination, not the beginning, of what is in this deal now. And all of this, everything that's been going on, the negotiations, are only about Iran's overt nuclear weapons program. The deal, the JCPOA as it's called, Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, gives Iran a clear pathway, an open pathway, an internationally approved pathway to a nuclear bomb. But that's not where the real program is. The Ayatollah Khomeini began this nuclear weapons program for Iran in the 1980s, ordering the IRGC, Islamic Revolutionary Guard Force, to get the bomb. That's when they began. For 14 years, nobody even knew that they were working on a nuclear bomb. They were working with the Pakistanis, the Chinese, the Russians, the North Koreans, and still are. But nobody knew about it until August of 2002, when the Iranian opposition group, the National Council of Resistance of Iran, blew the lid off of Iran's clandestine nuclear weapons program. And sites like Natanz were revealed for the first time to the world. At the point that they were revealed, they became showplaces, opened up for the IAEA and others to come in and have a look. The real program went underground, and I mean literally underground, and that's where it is today. It is under mountains, in bunkers and tunnels, deeply buried. That's not even up for discussion in the current agreement or the negotiations that led up to it. Now, I want to close here with a quick mention of the nature of this regime that we are dealing with. According to Iran's own constitution, this is the constitution that was formed when the Ayatollah Khomeini waged his revolution there, 1979, and then a revision in 1989. That constitution says that the Islamic Republic of Iran is an Islamic republic, that it is faithful to the Sharia. Sharia is Islamic law, and that it supports jihad. Jihad means warfare against non-Muslims. That's all it means. There is no other meaning in Islamic law of jihad except warfare against non-Muslims. That constitution says that the IRGC is an ideological army and that it is charged not just with the defense of Iran's borders, but also with spreading Sharia globally by means of jihad. That's in their constitution. Now, their actions would seem to indicate to me that they have been pretty faithful to their constitution. I see no reason to think that they would not be ever faithful to their constitution. Now, here's something else about being faithful to Islamic law, to Sharia, and that is that under Sharia, Muslims are obligated to lie to infidels. That's non-Muslims. They are obligated to lie when the objective to be achieved is obligatory, as obviously the acquisition of a nuclear weapons capability is to the Iranian regime. So that means that our leadership has been negotiating all these years with a regime that is obligated by its deeply held faith to lie to us. And moreover, to fight jihad, to destroy us, and to destroy Israel. That's what we are up against. That's what our leadership has been dealing with. This is what we are facing today and what we must oppose. We can choose to either confront Iran now, or we can confront them after they get a deliverable nuclear weapon. I know which one I'd rather choose, and we don't have any other choices. The deal will not stop this Iranian regime from seeking deliverable nuclear weapons. That is a fantasy. We face them now, or we face them later. If you have a chance, please get a hold of your representatives from Congress. They're all on the summer recess right now, back in their home districts. Go to their town hall meetings. Let them know your concern, please, about this deal, that you think that this deal must be voted down. Congress will reconvene in Washington, D.C. about the middle of September and may vote on this deal as early as about September 15, perhaps September 17. At that time, they will have the chance to vote this thing down. The more votes, the better. It will go to President Obama, who has the chance to veto it. If it is vetoed, then it goes back to the Congress, and they must come up with 67 votes in the Senate, a two-thirds veto-proof majority to override the veto. That's a tall order. It is a steep challenge. But only with your help and the help of people all across this country can our representatives be alerted to the fact that we oppose this deal. This deal has got to go. Dump this deal and stop Iran now. Thank you.